Welcome, everyone, to CDO's magazine series of one-on-one interviews with CDOs, data leaders, and key influencers. I'm your host, Robert Lutton, Vice President, Sandhill Consultants, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Michael Butts, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Burtch Works. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Robert. Great to be here.
Michael, it's a pleasure. And as I understand it, Burtch Works, from the research I've been doing, is a talent solution company for senior executives, contractors, and managed services organizations of not only the Fortune 500 companies, but also down to the small and medium-sized organizations with a specialty, I believe, in the data and analytics and AI space. Do I have that correct?
You are correct, Robert. Yeah, we've been in business for 15 years. We have specialized within statisticians, operations research, analytics, data science, AI, data engineering. We do support a lot of Fortune 500 companies, small to medium-sized business, and private equity as well, with executive search solutions. So that's both retained search and full-time placement, contract staffing through statement of work, and then also fractional executives, where we place senior leaders on fractional opportunities, typically through private equity.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of demand for this webcast, and we really appreciate you giving some of your time today. I know you're extremely busy with, all that you got going on with the company. We've kind of before the session talked about a couple of questions, and I think that these questions are going to be really interesting for our audience of data leaders and CDOs globally to hear. But I wonder if we could jump right in and sort of ask your opinion on how you have seen the landscape for salary information in the data science and analytics and AI space evolve, and what impact does this have on talent acquisition and retention?
Robert, it's a great question, and we've seen a massive, evolution of the hiring landscape inside of data and analytics, and specifically over the past 4 to 5 years. So I'll give a little background. Most recently, in 2021 and 2022, we saw more job switching or changes than we have in the previous 12 years. So 2021 and 2022 were very heavy hiring years in our skill category of data science and AI and data engineering. A lot of this was driven post-pandemic, and the demand for data professionals increased exponentially. With that also came salary inflation. So we track salaries for data professionals, both from an individual contributor perspective and leadership perspective. So we have an individual contributor category, 1, 2, and 3, based on years of experience. We have a leadership category, we call it manager, 1, 2, and 3 as well. And all 6 categories within the specific skill sets increased both years, upwards of 15 to 20% year over year on just the base salaries alone. So the demand drove the inflation. Then last year, we started to see that taper. The beginning of last year, there were significant layoffs starting in the tech sector. And those layoffs really started to slow down the accelerated demand that we had seen the previous 2 years. So to be very, kind of anecdotal on where we saw the biggest kind of pullback last year was in AI and data science in the management categories, both MG 1, 2, and 3. And you can find this in the Burtch Works salary report, which is easily downloaded from our website. Interesting enough, the IC categories stayed pretty flat, even with some growth still last year. So individual contributors in data science and AI still grew from a compensation perspective. However, the demand or the rate of job switches and changes decreased dramatically. So there was less demand last year. We did see a pullback in salaries for leadership categories. And then the only other category to double click on and to highlight is the IC3. This is our more principal individual contributor category for AI. AI also decreased in salary last year as well. Again, a lot of that is driven because of the heavy layoffs that primarily first impacted the technology industry vertical, but we did see other industry verticals also have layoffs as well. Tech was just leading the way.
Just to sort of carry on that thought, obviously we are in cycles. Do you think that we're at the end of that layoff cycle and about ready to go into maybe a burst of new hiring, or what's your gut feel on where we stand today with, the downturn of the economy? Are we in the middle of it? Are we towards the end of it? Any kind of input on that?
Yeah, certainly. And we actually have some data to back it as well. We're in the midst of publishing our 2024 Data Science and AI Salary Report, which will be published in July. So we're doing our data poll right now, very large N sizes. We have a data community of talent, over 150,000. And what we're seeing is that the customers that we work with day in and day out are still in a somewhat wait and see motion. They are still hiring for project-based work. Some projects have been put on the shelf or paused. Some that are either CapEx funded or OpEx funded previously that require skill sets that the company does not have. Instead of hiring full-time practitioners, we are seeing an increased demand for contract labor. So this is where they will hire on a contract assignment, either 6, 9, or 12 months in duration, and bring in specialized resources, W-2 through Burtch Works, but in a contingent fashion. And oftentimes that would be tied to more of a deliverable based on the project desired outcome. So we are still seeing hiring. We have seen a bigger shift towards contract labor. We do still have many customers who have projects or initiatives that are paused, not canceled. So I do think we're not fully out of an economic downturn or slowdown in terms of demand for hiring. But I do see that there's still hiring happening in different pockets, and it's just being acquired somewhat differently as well. I guess the last thing I'll say there too is around the fractional hiring.
Right.
This has been more prominent, certainly over the past 18 months, since the beginning of 2023. This is being driven heavily from the private equity partners in which we support. They often will bring us in to help with individual portcos that they've acquired, small to medium-sized businesses, or bring us in more at the PE level as a center of excellence to help with those strategic priorities and roadmaps that the portcos are going to execute against to increase enterprise value for the organizations.
There's going to be a lot of information we're going to be discussing, and so some of this will going to be really good information for our data leaders to understand how the market is changing. One of the questions that has come up is the demand for new skills like the AI, and machine learning skill sets. How, can you give us your understanding of how this demand has impacted the salary structures within the data science and AI industries?
Very similar to 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when we saw analytics, technology, and business really kind of combine that Venn diagram. Was really the birth of data science, but the nomenclature of data science was used quite broadly and still is. Whether it was operations research, more of a statistical need, a quant, or more of a true computer science-led data science requirement. Oftentimes the job title was called data science. And so it really kind of consumed a lot of the market, the naming convention. what we've seen, is that data science takes a pretty large span of the market. But what we've tried to do is break that down. So specifically, unstructured data, something that's helped to be more automated, and the use of AI. We've created a subcategory to bring that out and measure that against more structured data modeling skill sets. So just for the context of this interview, we'll consider AI more unstructured or predictive analytics, and data science kind of more structured data. We are seeing a premium for AI skill sets over data science. So there is a higher OTE, which is on target earnings for the AI skill category. That includes base salaries, incentive comp, and for some organizations, long-term incentive plans, LTIPs. In addition, you asked about skill sets and just evolution of the skill categories that we're seeing. You mentioned ML. We see a high demand for ML ops. This is somewhat similar to the DevOps framework, where testing really becomes more a part of the methodology across the life cycle versus QA testing at the end. Very similar to like the software development life cycle. So ML ops continues to be a pretty large driver in the market for skill set category evolution, or really it's more of a methodology. In addition, there's a large demand for data product management. And this is where organizations are historically leveraging data and looking to help build more data products. So productizing the data, whether for a platform or an application. And so data product management is also something that we've seen a tremendous demand for really over the past 9 months. So those are some kind of skill categories, that we see on the horizon. Also, some just salary kind of command as it relates to certain groups within inside of that core data science overall category.
So coming back to one of the questions you mentioned that you're seeing currently in this environment is the rise of part-time employment. And one can look at that. We've seen the term the gig economy and the rise of the gig economy. How do you see the difference of contract positions versus full-time positions evolving in the data science and AI sector? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's really project-based initiatives. Definitely will have more opportunity to leverage contract labor to execute against those projects versus hiring a full-time FTE. That skill category might not be needed once the project is successfully completed. The biggest kind of areas here that we've seen is that there are a lot of different dynamics happening as it relates to just consulting or managed services in general. One of which that's pretty notable is a lot of consulting firms will actually leverage a contract labor partner like Burtch Works to help bring in talent. So, for example, it might be a Big Four, and there's a premium that comes with those resources because they're coming through kind of 2 layers. So what we're finding a lot is a demand for us to go directly with customers to provide that high quality talent. And it creates a win-win-win scenario for the end customer because obviously there's a price benefit.
Sure.
Secondly, it's also a better experience for the contractor as well. And then it allows us to also provide resources across the whole life cycle and gives us a proactive approach to build a resource plan, for that initiative. So there's that dynamic that is very much in play. The other piece is that I think there is a more stronger demand and need in the small to medium sized business segment, and that's where we're seeing again contract staffing demand, but also this fractional leadership demand. We call it CXO, fractional CXO practice.
Right.
And whether it's being, driven directly from the organization, that's a small to medium sized company, or from the private equity sponsor, it seems to be highly effective getting specialized resources and thought leadership to companies that didn't have access to it before to make more strategic decisions that increase their enterprise value. And help them align to their strategic roadmap, and really provide them with an assessment and findings and what must be true in order to get from where they are to where they want to go. And some of those findings can be put on the shelf. Some could be executed against with existing resources, but some become individual projects that require outside consulting talent to come in and help deliver those milestones or project outcomes to help them advance their strategic roadmap initiatives.
I can certainly see why Burtch Works is currently, firing on all cylinders with the not only the type of individuals you have, but the approach that you have to servicing your customers, which is excellent. Um, Switching gears to the um, independent contractor, the individual. From your point of view, what do you see as some of the advantages? Because obviously we talked about contract work. There's a lot of contract work in this particular employment environment. But what do you see as the advantages and disadvantages of contract versus full-time employment models in this particular space? The data analytics and the AI space
Yeah,
from the
well,
individual side.
from the individual practitioner
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah.
Well, something that we hear time and time again is certain practitioners want more stability. So contracting might not be their number one choice. They're really either coming from a full-time position, so they're leaving a full-time job and searching for another full-time position, or they had been maybe impacted by a layoff or no longer in a full-time role, but really want that stability. So that is a big decision criteria. And that's why we do place many full-time, both practitioners and leaders, because they're typically either coming from a full-time position or they've never contracted before and they're just more comfortable in that type of situation. But from a contract perspective, we kind of see the adverse where the individual practitioner likes the contracting nature because it makes them more marketable. They're typically being exposed to a lot more technology more rapidly. It also provides them an opportunity to do what's called contract to hire. So a lot of our customers will hire a contractor from Burtch Works, and after 6, 9, 12 months, that organization has an FTE headcount that comes up or available, and they become really used to and accustomed to the contract resource. We allow and have a mechanism where our customers can convert that resource then full time. So the resource kind of is able to convert if, of course, they want to, and the organization is able to somewhat get used to and try, the resource as the funding for FTE comes to fruition, and retain that institutional knowledge that's been built up over the contract period. Another area is that contractors that we work with typically really like the hourly nature of it. It can be quite lucrative. And we provide best-in-class benefits. So they're W-2 through Burtch Works, and they still have the same benefits, including medical, dental, vision, short and long-term disability, life insurance, and we also provide a 401k match with a Roth option. So, it's a nice way to be able to work on a 9-month or 12-month assignment, maybe take a couple of months off to travel, which many do, or spend time with family, and then engage back into another long-term project assignment. So it just offers more flexibility, still at a very competitive compensation plan.
there are tremendous, just on those 4 or 5 points you've mentioned along that, the convert the contract to hire, that I haven't seen a lot of organizations, recruiting organizations offer. And the fact that you
Right.
offer, full benefits in the 401k plan, fantastic. Really applaud you on that. So congratulations on that. And I do applaud anyone that is listening from a organizational point of view, listening to what Burtch Works offers, or from an individual point of view, do reach out to Michael there, because it is, I see it as tremendous value. Uh, Now, a lot of the stuff we've talked about, AI, ML, data analytics, and historically, and maybe this is because I'm a male, you're a male, but historically, it tends to be, or it has been, somewhat male dominated. But I understand that Burtch Works and Women in Data Science have announced an exciting strategic partnership. And with this development, obviously there may be some challenges, but potential opportunities coming up to see more women included or expand into this field of data science and ML and artificial intelligence. Can you maybe comment on that, and what was the idea behind that, and how's it going?
Absolutely. Well, it's something we're real excited about as well. So we started our partnership with Women in Data Science WIDS 5 years ago, and they were founded from Stanford University. We worked with one of their co-founders, Margot, really to help provide data just on what's going on in the market around the both participation and compensation discrepancies from a gender perspective within inside of the data and analytics industry. So this led us to a couple white papers that we were able to contribute towards together, and finding some really interesting information around different areas of where gender participation drops off at certain levels, and is just lacking across the industry in general. So for example, we do see that there is typically less than 30% participation in both individual contributor and manager categories for data science, AI, and data engineering. We see this much more, dramatically less in the manager categories.
Right.
And we do see a drop off, as it relates to gender, specifically female practitioners who are moving into a leadership role. So from that IC3, individual contributor 3, our top category, to an MG1, there seems to be a really significant drop off of female practitioners moving into leadership roles. So together collectively, we wanted to support WIDS on a mission that they have, which is to really drive 30% representation, Robert, by 2030 of
Right.
female leaders and practitioners within data and analytics. So in order to do that, we wanted to not just leverage our data, but put action behind it. And that's what led us to really launch a dynamic product called Uplink. Uplink is a really career advocacy workspace where WIDS members can access our salary reports, curated content that allows them to navigate their career, upskill, be able to create a better website or a better resume. And so there's a lot of different avenues to it.
We appreciate you coming on board, talking about this. We certainly hope that we get the chance to have you come back and share your knowledge and experience on best hiring practices that retain and attract the best in the industry. So thank you for your time, Michael.
Robert, thank you so much. It would be my pleasure to come back maybe after our 2024 salary report launch in July and present some of our most updated data and insights. And always happy to get together with you and the CDO Magazine team. So thanks for having me.
Oh, we appreciate it. And for our listeners, please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews. Thank you.
Thanks, Robert. Take care.